Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Bringing Heaven on Earth. This is Veronica Carrera. I am the founder of Atartunti Holistic Retreat in Costa Rica. This podcast unites wisdom keepers, healers, and inspirational leaders dedicated to elevating the consciousness of our planet. So I have here a very special guest. Tara, you're going to have to pronounce your last name. So I do not, I do it justice. So why don't you introduce yourself?
I'll do that. It's Tara Urszula Pietrzykowska. Let's just go with the full name.
All right, there we go. Okay, so Tara is a good friend of mine and someone that I'm actually super happy that I have here on this podcast because of her phenomenal work that she does in helping others heal from traumas and be able to since this podcast is about bringing heaven to earth, how do you define this concept of bringing heaven to earth? What does it mean to you? Because I know it can be a woo-woo kind of concept. But let's talk about what we really mean by this.
Yeah. So first and foremost, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and have all those interesting conversations that we have a lot. It's an honor to be here with you and connect with all the audience and talk about all those important subjects. So bringing heaven to earth, it can, in my perspective, right? I think it's a subject, it's a theme that's going to be unfolding as the conversation continues. Yes. It's not something that can be defined in one sentence and complete, right? I think it's a theme that will require constant opening and revising and unfolding and deepening, as we continue this work. In my perspective, there are a couple of ways to look at this. It can be seen as a very woo concept, bringing heaven on earth, right? It has all those components that make people uncomfortable. But I also look at that as a purpose and a mission of making the earth better, right? Bringing something beautiful, something loving, kind, caring, tender into our everyday presence in connection with each other, but also in connection with nature, with wildlife, with everything around us, right? And in that sense, it might be kind of a metaphor almost. There are other ways to look at that also. Look where we are. We are halfway to heaven, right? We are right now on the mountain. We are kind of so close to heaven, and the vibration and frequency of this place, Atartunti, is so high and it's so beautiful that I can feel in my heart and in my everyday presence that I do enter a different frequency, a different way of living, a different way of thinking. Just because of the energy of the land, just because of the energy of what you've been creating here and the beauty around. So that's another way to look at that. When we go more into the esoteric woo concept, right? There's the whole thing about, what we're entering right now, which is we are crossing into potentially a new level of consciousness for humanity at large, right? We're kind of on the cusp of something that's, things often have to break down before they move into on the higher level, right? So in that sense, that I believe there's something new available and possible for humanity at large that we are defining in that way of, higher vibration, higher frequency, what we choose to focus on, what we choose to think, what we choose to feel, how we choose to live our lives, how we come into a relation with everything around us, not just about ourselves, our own, for us, for me, right? But how do we function in a harmony with everything to create that high vibration and high frequency, right? And we can go into more specific kind of concept and, whenever.
Absolutely. I really want you to dive in a little bit more on this thought that sometimes things have to break down before we see the breakthrough. And there's so much happening in the world, and it feels like a lot of people are navigating uncertainty, and we have a reverence for all of the things that are happening in the world. I keep that in my meditations, in my prayers. But tell me, what do you mean by sometimes things have to break down before we see the breakthrough?
Mhm. Well, I think we saw it on many levels throughout history, right? When different um, challenging things happened that then kind of made this big push forward, right? But on a more of an individual level, even, this concept of sometimes we, in our own, my own, if we just talk about myself, right?
Yeah.
In this moment, I saw it in my clients as well, obviously, but just kind of to make it more personal. Often I'm not moved and inspired and motivated to make a change until things get really, really, really challenging, right? And the biggest example, and it's also an example that I can give of what I've seen around me, because I've gone through chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue is a debilitating condition. People sometimes spend years, if not lifetime, in bed, not being able to function, not being able to think, not being able to connect with their loved ones, not being able to live their lives, right? And in the recent discoveries of past not that many years, 5 maybe or so, there's this whole idea coming up of that the chronic fatigue is a result of a nervous system dysregulation. Tools to use to move through this chronic fatigue and regulate your nervous system and move towards, the health. That's what I just call it, right? The work that's required of the people that are taking upon themselves to heal chronic fatigue is absolutely mind-blowing. The strength that's required for them to redirect from the pain towards gratitude and appreciation. The way they have to rewire their nervous system, and how much work, sometimes 100 times a day, you have to do the work of rewiring your thinking, the way of thinking. But those people, as well as me, do this work because they are up against the wall. The life became unbearable, and therefore they commit so much energy, so much effort into getting their life back. And in my experience and experience of many people that I talk to, this in a way is one of the biggest blessings of our lives, that we get to do this work
Yeah.
that I otherwise wouldn't. I wouldn't even think about searching for those things.
Yeah, so in moments of our own darkness, yeah, or hitting rock bottom, those are the moments of the biggest illuminations that we have for our own personal lives. And I think that's how we can make a connection with the collective. There's a lot going on right now. We're all trying to process, we're all trying to understand. I think it's impacting all walks of life, people in corporate America, us who are intentionally facilitating spaces for people to experience this transformation in their lives, and also in all sorts of walks of life. So that is the work, as you said. How can we see the light at the end of everything that we're going through? So this is a beautiful way to kind of introduce the concept of how do we move from the darkness to the light, and what does bringing heaven to earth really mean. So thank you for dissecting this concept and making it more digestible for us. So Tara, just tell me a little bit about you, because I know we started talking, kind of got into it. What is heaven to earth?
the most
Exactly,
interesting,
right, went
juicy
right to the core, but maybe people want to know a little bit more about you. I just know myself that you are a bright human being, extremely smart, who made some significant changes in her life. You pivoted your life, your career, everything. So tell me a little bit more about you. Where were you born? Let's just start.
Oh, all the way down, all the way
All
back.
the way down. Let's say Just quickly where you were born and then a little bit of your life's trajectory.
Yeah, I was born in Poland. There's a country with Russian ceremony. And where do you want me to jump in? Like, what is the most
And
interesting
then I know you
part?
came to the United States. I guess for some after just like me, I was born in Ecuador, and I was in Ecuador until I was 16. Then you came to the States to pursue your professional career or your educational career. So maybe
I guess
tell us.
the theme that's kind of unfolding throughout my life is how versatile and how broad my skills and interests are. Because I went consecutively through various different paths that are seemingly, not quite compatible. So I was in math and physics in high school, very focused on math and physics, and then because I was so good at it, I didn't realize that it's something of value that I can. It was easy for me, right? So I didn't value that.
Look at that. Math and physics was super easy for Tara. I think a lot of people are not appreciating that comment. But go ahead.
I had good
Okay, you have
teachers.
good teachers. Okay, go for it.
And then after that, I decided to go to acting school because why not?
Why not?
Why not? There was definitely a reason. I was a very shy child.
Okay.
I really avoided, crowds and didn't want to be seen too much. So I figured, why not challenge myself? So that's another thing of my life that I really like to challenge myself and kind of open different perspectives and different expand myself as a
Okay.
human being, kind of testing what the boundaries, what the possibilities are of a human being, right? So after the acting, spending some multiple years in acting, that's when I came to the US. When I was 24. And then I went back into math and computers and statistics and quantitative finance,
Quantitative finance.
derivatives, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, very super fun. I know.
Yes, so valuing, pricing, risk assessment. all
You,
that
you're
stuff.
making me remember all the things that
I
used to
know,
stress
don't you
me
just
out a
name
little
them?
bit. All right, so then what happened?
And then so then I arrived at the crisis. I arrived at the point where my let's just call it the burnout.
Oh, burnout.
Yeah, after some years
Of working
of
in
working in
corporate
finance, corporate America.
I used to work for one of the top companies, and I actually thought, oh, I would love to have worked there. You used to work for BlackRock.
BlackRock.
I mean, come on,
Yeah,
that's
you were in
like super
Bloomberg, I
hard.
was in BlackRock.
I was in Bloomberg, you were in BlackRock. And I just remember meeting you that many years ago while you were still working for BlackRock. Then something happened. We used to go to the same public speaking club during that time. What is it? It was called Toastmasters. It's still called Toastmasters. And so you used to give speeches at me too. And then suddenly I feel like you just disappeared. Something happened with your life. So maybe talk a little bit about
Yes. And I came back and gave the memorable speech about ancestral healing ceremonies in the jungle of Peru. And yes, that was something that Veronica definitely didn't appreciate until
I did not.
recently.
I watched her. I was sitting in the audience and I watched her get up and talk about ancestral healing ceremonies with indigenous people in Peru and shamans and everything. And I remember watching you and I said to myself, oh my gosh, what happened to her? My gosh, she looks a little bit lost. I need to save her. So, because you also said that you actually left corporate America. And for me, it's like, wow, we worked so hard to be where we're at and to get to certain positions. So I think that's what made me feel, I think, anxious for you, right? Because I'm so used to a life that is stable, that is safe, that I all know exactly what's going to happen each day. And you actually did the unconventional. So you stood up, you talked about doing this thing that I couldn't understand. You did some ancestral healing ceremonies. What is that? And suddenly you just completely did a full turn, like
Yeah.
180-degree turn in your life.
Yeah, that's
So talk about that. What did that do for you? Tell me a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah. So that's kind of one thing that I also appreciate about myself, that I do get to have the courage to do those big changes and do those big shifts. It's certainly not easy for many people. So what happened? I went to. It was a big year of changes, right? 2012 for many people. For many
2012, yeah.
people. And my work already started with other things like somatic therapy, somatic therapy.
Maybe explain what somatic therapy is quickly.
Yeah, so somatic. So my start with somatic therapy was with chronogenics, which is an experiential way to access your feelings,
To
access your feelings,
Okay.
and feel your feelings, right?
Okay.
And not just like in your head
Bypass
thinking
them.
about them, but really feeling them in your body, in your whole being, and being able to really contain them and process them in that way,
Okay.
right? So we would
Super.
do, yeah. So that was already unfolding, and I went to the jungle, the Peruvian jungle, working, yes, as you said, with the shamans for about 2 weeks. And when I came out, it was just clear for me that I was going to do this thing I dreamed about for a while at the time, come back and just quit my job right there on the spot. And that was a very satisfying experience. And yet, of course, it brought ego dissolution. My whole identity was centered around this work, the importance of this, how smart I was, that I was in this company, that I was, wearing those clothes and having those friends, and how much money I was making. That was all kind of my identity. And that was the thing I didn't expect, how much my whole identity was going to crumble. That was a challenging experience. It was the first time I think that my identity really just fell apart so intensely.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've been going through that, and I'm still going through that. And as your identity crumbles, what happens? And during that period when you feel like all your labels and your titles and everything is just falling away.
Mm-hmm. A lot
Explain
of
to me a
anxiety.
little- a lot of anxiety.
Lot of anxiety. Yeah. Who am I now? What's going on? What's going to happen to my life? And that was also a big turn, because also on the way back from this experience in the jungle, I decided to go to India to search for my spiritual master. Right?
Okay.
So 3 weeks later, I'm going to India. While in India, I found him. Pretty first place I went to. Meanwhile, while being in India, I also decided to give up my apartment.
Got
Because
it. So there's a lot going on here.
a lot going. I just let it all crumble. I
Let it all crumble. So it's like a death of the self as we knew it for a long time. So then maybe I'll just take a pause right here, because I know maybe a lot of people cannot resonate completely with that aspect of what we have done, but everyone in some moment of their lives, they had to let something crumble. Either their marriage, either they're having a long-term career with a company, and then they have to pivot and choose something that resonates more with them, a company that resonates more with their values, moving to a new country, deciding a new path in their lives. There is just one constant thing, which is change. That's the only constant thing in our lives. Now, the type of changes that we have gone through just seem pretty extreme from the outside. But everyone has to, at one point or the other, understand that change is just around the corner for you. And it will always be, because we're just here passing by through this life. All right,
The
so
saying comes to me: everyone wants something. Everyone wants to be different, but no one wants to change. It's like the change.
Ooh, okay, everyone wants to be different, but no one wants to change.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing here that makes me think is that we can either be in more sovereignty around these changes, be more intentional on understanding what our soul is is pulling us toward and be aligned to that, or let life change things for you. Yeah. So that way you're more in the driver's seat, or you're more basically on the captain of your own life. You become the captain of your own life, or the architect of your own life. So now this is what happened, because I want to get to this point. Obviously, your life started to crumble. What I call, or I shouldn't say I call it, Vishen Lakiani, the founder of Mind Valley, calls it beautiful destruction. Why beautiful? Because sometimes what you have built for your life up to now, it's not that it was wrong, but that is the version that you needed to bring. That's it. That's the life that you needed to build up to that point. And in order for you to get to the next level of your soul, the next chapter of your life's journey, sometimes what you built up to now has to crumble in order for you to ascend or rise to the highest possibilities for your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And by now, after going through like multiple of those crumbles, some bigger, some smaller, but some tremendously big, I actually get to appreciate that. It's still challenging,
Yeah.
it's still painful, it's still difficult, and I'm still like, oh my God, when is it gonna end? There's so much there. But there's also when you start feeling this new life coming in, this new you coming, like blossoming slowly. It's just the most beautiful experience ever. Being released from that identification, from
Yeah.
what we thought we were, our constraints, what we thought were possible for us. It's the most beautiful, 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 tender moment. Of this almost like like it is
It's
a
a
rebirth.
rebirth. It is a rebirth. And I know that there is a very popular metaphor. It's about being in the cocoon, the chrysalis, emerging out of the cocoon until it becomes a butterfly and extend its wings and fly. I think we have to go through a few of these transformative moments where we have to die and resurrect, where we have to die and be reborn again. And it's in this rebirth that we get to know more and more who we truly are.
Yes, who we truly are, exactly.
Who we truly are. And I always say to people, I have gone through this, and it doesn't mean that I have it all figured out. It just means that I have gotten my life up to a certain point through a series of awakenings where I can now be bold enough to have these conversations with people like you, and hopefully just open the doors for many others to understand that life is just a series of awakenings, and it's all about returning to our true home, which is our truest and highest version of our humanity. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here because we said a lot, and I want to get to then after the destruction. Tara had this awakening, and now she decided to work with clients to help them process trauma, to help them hold space for emotional liberation, to be able to stand with their shadows so that they can alchemize their lives. So talk to me about that, because I know that some of your clients have experienced anxiety, depression, trauma, and you help them tremendously as you facilitate spaces for them.
Yes. So it's interesting because I feel like in life, when we let go, sometimes multiple things happen at the same time. A path opens up, and when we follow our excitement, when we follow our heart, uh, all those pieces kind of come together seamlessly. And at the same time, when I went to Peru, same year I went to Peru, I also started my training in the somatic therapy. Right? So that's what I mentioned earlier. And I noticed that a lot what I was learning, there was also somatic, there was also some energy, there was also some kind of body reading, where the energy is being stuck. When I say energy, where the feelings are stuck in the body. And I noticed that in the ancestral healing ceremonies that I started helping with, and I was supporting people from that perspective, just helping the shamans hold the space and support people on their journey. I noticed that a lot of the things that I was learning, they were actually doing on those journeys, those experiences. And I realized that that's something very powerful. Because in the somatic therapy, we try to take off the lid of the mind, of the brain, like what should be, what shouldn't be, the stories, what is safe to feel, what's not safe to feel, how my body can be allowed to move, how my body cannot be allowed to move, right? In those healing experiences, ceremonies, the body kind of takes over. The body just releases, and the nervous system, everything just kind of moves however it needs to move to release whatever trauma, whatever stress or anxieties there are, or holdbacks, in terms of depression. So, learning that at the same time to do it in everyday life with people was really tremendously supportive for me to understand and learn, how the human body releases trauma. And I followed up with a lot of other things, trauma specific, like somatic experiencing, when we really kind of go deeply into the body sensations and a lot of the knowledge and understanding how the nervous system works. Because the nervous system is pretty much what controls, how much is going to be moved or how much trauma is being held inside.
You touch upon a very interesting point, because you and the other guests that we had this week talk about sitting with your emotions and not numbing them through taking pills and, okay, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depression, okay, let me take something so that I don't feel. Yeah. What you are saying is like, no, you're not taking anything so that you don't feel. We actually want you to feel,
Yes.
to feel all of it.
Yes,
And
yes, and there has to be a moderation, right? It's not necessarily helpful to feel it all in terms of being thrown into the depths of anxiety and fear and having to sit with that, because the nervous system dysregulation, when it goes to the level that is too much,
Too intense.
too intense, nothing is being processed anyway.
That's right.
Everything shuts down, right?
Got it.
So
the body kind of tries to protect itself. So what you're trying to do is get it to a state.
So what we're trying to do, we're trying to navigate the places of not shutting down everything, not like completely disconnecting, not wanting to feel anything, but slowly opening up the capacity to feel, the container, learning how to handle your nervous system to feel those things.
Got it.
Right? What sometimes people start feeling something challenging and they get scared. So on top of the feeling, there's also fear, right? There's layered up emotions that really immobilize the nervous system and not allow for any kind of a processing work to deepen. Right.
Yeah.
So we navigate. Sometimes there are certain breaks that we need to take. Sometimes we need to take a little break from feeling, just to kind of come into the place of, with trauma, one of the things that is very challenging is that there was no control. Right. So when we are exposed again and again to anxiety and these intense emotions, we are kind of in a way almost teaching ourselves we don't have control over it, right?
Yeah.
So we learn certain tools, certain ways that we can have some kind of a, a little bit of a control, a container, how to handle
love
them.
it. I love the gentle and loving approach to dealing with depression and trauma and anxiety, because what you're saying is I gently take my clients to feel, like create a container that is bearable, that is manageable, so they have a breakthrough. Yeah. And we're not talking about numbing or feeling too much of anything. It's how do I take them gently into this journey so that they find liberation at the end.
Right. Create enough safety for them that they can touch what they were afraid to feel.
Beautiful, beautiful. I remember I had a session with you about dealing with my mom's death, and the child, my inner child, perhaps felt that I was abandoned because she died when I was 9. And you and I had a conversation or a session about connecting with that child and all of the child's emotions. So it was probably one of the most beautiful experiences that I had. And so this is what we talk about these things is really what it means to bring heaven to earth. And it's not a concept that is so abstract because what we're trying to say is that it starts with us. How do we get to heal our hearts, heal our nervous systems, heal our lives so that we live in a more empowered way? And therefore, our frequency, the life force that we live with, also elevates the collective consciousness
Yeah.
of each space that we are part of. Okay, I really love this. I really love how you are taking some complex concepts and making it simple for us to understand. Now, I do have something else that I want to talk to you about because you talk also that as we take people through this journey of deep work, the inner work, the work that matters so that we can live a healed life, an empowered life, a free life. You talk about integration, which is a crucial part of the healing process. I don't understand exactly what you mean by integration. And perhaps because I feel like everybody talks about integration, and in your case, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So is that a specific type of integration you're talking about?
Yeah, so for instance, integration after going deep into your traumas, or I know that when people experience these ancient healing modalities, which are part of like traditions of over 5,000 years from our indigenous people. And this is the way that they use nature instead of pills to heal themselves. So when people are introduced to these modalities, what does integration mean?
So a lot of the work that I do with people around emotions, around the shadow integration, right? That is very helpful, for the integration after, let's say, ancestral healing ceremonies, right? Where people go really, really deep, really, really far into those spaces, and the distance between that experience and everyday life is so big that it's really hard to bridge, the gap from one place to another, right? So the things that we do in the aftermath, and that can be, working about any emotions that came out, or any shadows, or any experience, any feelings, that came out during the experience itself. But what integration really means is using various ways and various tools to bridge that gap from that intense experience to the everyday experience, and how we can implement the lessons from that experience, into our everyday life.
Yeah.
Right. So simple things like that, you get a lesson, you get a message.
Yeah.
Call your mom, talk to your mom, right? And I'm not saying that you have to act on every message, there have to be some discernment, right? But let's just say, forgive your mom, have a heart-to-heart conversation with your mom. And, in the aftermath, you have to find it within yourself to follow those messages.
Yes.
Right? Because if we kind of jump in and out and don't bring anything, any container around the medicines, it's kind of like a in and out journey with nothing spreads into how you live your life.
Nothing to anchor it here in this life here and now.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, like I remember when I went through this transformative healing experience in Costa Rica a few years ago. I was already, I think, a successful sales leader. Everyone, I feel like I always had an opportunity to be better and do better. But I was always devoted to making sure that I was intentional. I care about the people I led, and I think I was successful overall in achieving the business goals of the organization. But there was an unhealed aspect of me, and as we know, the healing journey is a long journey. but there was something important for me to process in my life. And then I came to Costa Rica in 2019 or 2020, and I experienced something so powerful. I experienced a healing, an awakening, and a transformative experience in my heart. And when I went back to corporate America, I remember sitting on the Empire State Building and I looked at the people I led very differently. Now we're hearing the monkeys. I don't know if everyone can hear the monkeys here, but I feel like I became a much better leader, a much better leader. I wanted, of course, my team to be the most successful team in regards to business results, but I wanted to do it with a level of humanity that we as a team will never forget that time that we had together. And I can say that that's exactly what happened. About 2 years ago, as you know, I left corporate America to build this holistic retreat as part of the inspiration that I felt throughout this journey. But I never going to forget that group of people because they were almost like the offspring of how I elevated my leadership through working through my own consciousness
Absolutely.
and healing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I feel like, in all various levels. And just to be clear, like not everyone has to leave their lives and
Not everyone
and
has
do
to live their lives.
jobs.
Not at all.
I think
I'm
it's
glad
many
you
of a calling.
mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because actually the work is exactly where you're at. If you are a corporate America leader right now, then be the best corporate America leader that you can be. Someone that your employees look up to, that they feel inspired by you, that where you lead with consciousness and compassion, and also generating business results, but with so much consciousness that you transform not only the energy of your own teams, but your whole organization. If you're a doctor, if you are a lawyer, whatever it is and your role is how do you elevate the consciousness, your individual consciousness, and therefore elevate the consciousness of your own organization. So everyone has a role exactly where they're at. Just some of us felt like taking a step aside to do something like this because we were called to do something for the collective, for people who look like us. Anything else you want to say as we close this episode of bringing heaven to earth? I know we started by saying this woo-woo concept, but so then how do you make it less woo-woo? How do you what can you leave the audience with?
I want to mention that because that's very dear to my heart. That whole project about eco restoration that is so important for me. Why I'm mentioning that? Because I feel like throughout the journey that I've been going through, for the last 14 years now, my focus on the self has been moving away as I'm feeling more and more whole within, as I'm feeling more and more okay, as I'm feeling more and more complete, and as I stop associating myself so tightly with my patterns, my what I call ego patterns of thinking, patterns of this is me, my opinion, my this, right? Like when it kind of start the soul, when the identity keeps falling apart and falling apart and falling apart, and you keep finding like what's deeper underneath, you start realizing that there is really no almost self. And as terrifying or as foreign that might sound, it's a very liberating concept. It's a very liberating concept. And in the process, I started experiencing more of a sense of the passion for nature, for wildlife, for our, for the harmony with everything around. Because I can feel how every tree, every plant, every animal work in harmony with everything else. And it's not like a human higher frequency is gonna be accomplished in isolation and in silo. We are the nature, all that surrounds us as the higher vibration possible, and therefore in restoring it and maintaining it, in supporting and nourishing it, helping it grow, it gives us back, that capacity to go even higher.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to kind of mention that because I don't want to keep again, because there was like a one human, one ego, and now humanity, but still kind of in a silo. Right?
We are still in an ecosystem with nature.
Right. Right. And we cannot be separated from that.
We are
cannot
not separate from
accomplish
nature.
wholeness or higher vibration, higher frequency, without really being in that relational field.
That's
with
right,
everything around
relational
us.
field, because we are nature. We are nature, so we have to take care of Mother Earth, our environment, because as we take care of Mother Earth, we're taking care of each other.
Yeah.
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 No, that's beautiful. I know that maybe I forgot to mention that you are now here in Aturtunti Holistic Retreat, and you are our marketing director. And I think you do many other things here, and we always laugh about. But what do you want to say about Aturtunti before we leave? We have a retreat coming up on January 22nd through 27th. It's going to be phenomenal. So if anyone wants to come in last minute, please just contact me, send me a direct message. But what do you want to say about being here? Because you've been here for, what is it, 2 months already?
Yeah, almost 2 months. Almost 2 months. Another big jump.
Another big jump.
Yeah. I
You decided to come and support me, support us here.
Yeah. It just felt like the right place, the place to be.
Yeah.
And it's been coming for a while, but finally, after this last experience, this last dieta, I made the jump. But what I want to say about Aturtunti, I think that bringing heaven to earth, the name Aturtunti, bringing heaven to earth, the name of this podcast, is exactly how we feel here. And I mentioned at the very beginning that we're kind of high, close to the clouds and sky and heaven, right? And there's also the sense of being kind of hanging in between somewhere. It's almost like we're coming closer to
The bridge.
the bridge, and just the nature here, the energy here, makes me feel like I'm halfway there.
The nature that makes
The views, the people here, the incredible people, the team that you're creating, the incredible integrity that's unfolding here. I feel like I found people that are walking this earth in the way I want to walk it.
Thank you for saying that, and thank you for bringing up integrity, because that is the foundation of everything we do here. I think values are a must when we build something meaningful and significant. And I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this podcast. Thank you for being part of Aturtunti. It's been a joy to make this podcast with you. We always start laughing with each other.
We have a lot of fun
Yeah,
together.
we have a lot of fun together. Paola Castro is going to be jealous because she says, "No, you have more fun with me." Well, we also have so much fun with Tara. But thank you, everyone. Please message me, message us if you have any questions, if you want to reach out and know any of the events that we have happening in 2026. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.